Everyone in the Shadow of the Hawk, welcome back to my channel. I apologize for the horrendous lighting. Uh, there's nothing I can do about it. It's my overhead light, and I don't know why it's this freaking bad. But anyway, I just got off of Monday night's Game of Thrones over on Legion Talk and the Joker's Voice. We got some amazing panelists on there. If you don't watch it, what are you doing? Go check it out. It's amazing. But there was a point that I wanted to talk about, but there wasn't enough time, so I just decided, hey, I'll address it here. That is Dany's Field of Fire or Flame of Fire, Field of Fire, whatever it is. It sucks. It's bad. It's not good. It is horrendous. I don't mean in the cinematography angle. I don't mean in the acting. I don't mean in the visuals. I mean it is a nonsensical battle. It makes no sense in any sense of the word. The setup makes no sense. The execution makes no sense. None of it. All of it is just bad. And I'm going to break down why that is. So let's jump into that. So first off, I'm just going to explain why the logistics of the battle does not make sense. Starting with Dany being in Essos. So before we even get to Westeros, before I even really need this map up, I'm going to break down why this scene does not work. So Dany has her Khalasar. She has her army of savage horse riders. Khalasars don't really function in armies at all. The way they work is they're a tide of men bringing their women and their children and their herd animals with them. That's actually part of the reason why the Mongols were such an effective force. They brought years and years and years of basically living on these steppes trained them into their entire society was a logistical core. So while that's why they were able to move so freaking rapidly because they were transporting their own food, they were transporting their own supplies throughout Central Asia and stuff, where a normal army would need to establish supply nodes and bases of operation and supply caravans. The Mongols didn't need to do that. Maybe arrows, they would maybe need to resupply on arrows and weapons and stuff like that from like the craftsmen they had in China and in whatever the Uyghur Kingdom was called. I'm blanking. I think Greater Lao might be what I'm thinking of. I might be thinking of something different, but regardless, semantics. They were a logistical train. The one advantage the Dothraki would have is that they are a superior logistical train on land, and that is the crucial fundamental problem. Transporting a force of the Dothraki, which is effectively 100,000 individual. Like even Khal Drogo's Khalasar was 100,000 people. Dany's Khalasar is explicitly stated to be significantly bigger. I think it's like 100,000 riders, which would be multiple hundreds of thousands when you add in the women and the children and the non-combatants and the slaves and all of that. The Dothraki are not going to give that up. They're taking that with them. They're taking their animals, they're taking their women, they're taking their children, they're taking all of it. And what would that look like? Well, let's just take a basic Dothraki warrior. I'm going to actually close the Westeros map now. Okay, we're going to take a basic Dothraki warrior. He has his wife. He has, let's say he has 3 children. Let's say he's above replacement level. He's got 3 children. He would also have his primary horse. He would have his secondary battle horse because horses tire out in combat. He may even have a third horse if he was particularly wealthy. He would have a horse that his family uses to transport things on. Then there would also be his animals, his personal herd, including goats and sheep and cows and maybe even some chickens. His own personal stuff. There would also be the wagon that his family uses to transport everything in. So that is one Dothraki warrior with the bare minimum that he would have. We are talking about basically 100,000 of that. That is a massive logistical undertaking to do by sea because not only do you need all the ships to do it. So let's just magic that Dany with the Iron Fleet has that many ships to transport that many people and that many animals. She also needs enough ships to transport enough food for those animals. Or she needs enough ships to transport enough gold to purchase enough food for those animals and those men. And bear in mind, Dothraki don't eat vegetation because they're again based off like steppe tribes and the Native Americans. Their diet was very meat based. That's why they were physically superior to pretty much everyone else they ever encountered. So the Dothraki would not be eating most of the provisions like hardtack that sailors would have. They would constantly need to be slaughtering their animals or buying dried meat. Which okay, yeah, that solves the animal problem. But the Dothraki, if they're based off the Mongols, which I mean they are, presumably would not slaughter their beasts of burden they would only do that during the winter when there's not easy game accessible or when they can't milk their animals. So most likely, unless they're really pushed to it, they're not going to start slaughtering their animals because they need those. So Dany's constantly having to stop at every port, spend all of her money to feed her army. So by the time she actually gets to Dragonstone, she has already spent a large amount of resources just feeding this army that she hasn't had a chance to use it yet. Then on Dragonstone, she takes a couple of days. John's trip from the north is it's gonna take a while for news to get to him. It's gonna take a while for him to get to Dragonstone. Let's say 2 weeks. Let's say that's bullshit. It should be more like a month or two, but let's say 2 weeks. It takes 2 weeks for John to get there. That is 2 weeks of the Dothraki just on Dragonstone. Where are they feeding them? How are they feeding them? Now you may go, Elena, she brought food. That would take a fleet. That would take a supply fleet. Something that would take weeks, maybe even months to gather all the grain for, log, store, put into the ships. And also remember that she doesn't Olenna would not have her own ships. She would have to get the Red Winds, which means organizing with the Red Winds. The Red Winds actively use their trade fleet, so they would need to pull those back. Fundamentally, feeding the Dothraki would be almost impossible through Olenna. So then, okay, the people of Dragonstone. Dragonstone is a rock in the ocean whose only value is the Castle Dragonstone as a symbolic thing and the volcano, which only really had value to the Lannisters, or not the Lannisters, sorry, the Targaryens, or the Obsidian, which only has value to Jon. He likes dragon ass. So Dragonstone is a shithole island. It's not going to have enough to feed a Khalasar's worth of livestock animals, and Dany is not going to have any allies there. Like, because that is going to be heavy. Like that area was most likely purged of not Daenerys Targaryen loyalists, or the land around it is actively being occupied by Lannister troops. So she would not be able to feed her Dothraki. They would start starving, or they're the animals. The animals would start starving, meaning the Dothraki start starving. So right there, already, logistically speaking, we got a problem there. But it's further compounded by the fact that the moment Dany finds out about what's going on in regards to the operation, so I'm jumping back here. Is it show? I'm jumping back here. Okay, so right here, right, we got Dany. We got Dan. So Dany's in Dragonstone. Okay, let's say the siege of Highgarden realistically should have taken months because it is a fairly large castle. It would, but okay, like Jamie like walked up to the gates and he promised, "Hey, if you open up the gates, I won't kill you in particular." He did something. They siege they don't siege the castle. They storm the castle. They take it in like a day or two because, frankly, that's what happened. Like that's what the show says happened. That's what happened. So he takes Highgarden. Probably takes him another day to load everything up. So I'll say, Dany, in a day, the Raven arrives at Dragonstone. Okay, Dany. So as John, even though it's not what they show in the episode, I'm just going to say that's what happened. Jamie is leaving Highgarden on a paved road. Now, I don't really know. George is very finicky about distances. I remember the wall is like, I think, actually, I'll quickly Google this. Uh, Game of Thrones, how big is the wall? About 300 miles. Okay, the wall is about 300 miles. The wall. Okay, so the wall's about 300 miles. So that's like looking at that, I would say that looks like about 600 miles. So okay, yeah, that looks about 600 miles. Okay, so Jamie is moving along this road, and he's got no reason to sprint. There's absolutely no reason to sprint. He's gonna be doing like a leisurely, like a rest pace, basically moving this wagon slowly. So let's say 10 miles a day. No, that also feels too damn long. That also feels way too damn long. Fuck. Okay. This is hurting my head. Okay. It's gonna take Jamie a while. It's going to take Jamie a while to move along this road. Okay, fair. But Dany, we don't see that time pass, so we have to assume it's a couple of days. So we'll assume that Jamie's like right here. Okay, Jamie's about here. Okay, so he's not too far. He's very far away from King's Landing. He's about here because we don't really see much time pass. Dany, the moment she found out, got her Khalasar off of Dragonstone, loaded up on those ships, and they sailed. Where did they land? So they would need to land somewhere. They're not landing in the Crown Lands. They're okay. So they're landing in the Stormlands. Okay, they're landing in the Stormlands, and then they organize into their formation, and then on an unpaved area because there's not going to be a major road. There's not going to be any actual roads on an unpaved area through woods. Because if I remember right, this map doesn't really show it, but this is a very wooded area. They're going to move through the Stormlands to the Reach. They also need to predict where Jamie is so they can do their massive, like, oh, we have an army look. Because here's the thing In a previous episode, we established that Jamie understands sentries. So it makes sense that Jamie knows we're at war. So that earlier in the show, he admonished the phrase for yeah, we're at peace, but you don't know whenever an army could crop up on you. So Jamie would have sentries. Jamie would know that this Dothraki Khalasar is coming. Absolutely. Hell, the Dothraki Khalasar, like, they're the fucking Dothraki. Okay, like they're gonna like be, they can't just blitz that distance. If this is 600 miles, this is also about 600 miles. They would not be able to do that in a day. Like, absolutely not. Like a car. I don't think a car. Like, okay, let me think. So my about 120-mile drive. Is it about 120 miles? I think it's about no, is it 200? Crap, I'm blanking on my own drive home because I don't think about it. I just go on the highway. But okay, well that's also on a highway, so that's not even a good example. Why am I rambling? Point is, they would not be able to cross that in a couple of days. They absolutely would not. Meaning this entire country, and they also would, need to be transporting their own food, their own supplies, unless they start despoiling the local area for food and supplies. Basically, what I'm saying is this battle should not be happening because they would not even be able to encounter each other fundamentally because Dany would need to organize the attack, land on the Stormlands, and then move her army through. Well, when the Dothraki land in the Stormlands, the local lords are going to act up. The local lords are going to notice that something's off. The local lords are going to do something. And then she's going to have to go through the Reach. Okay, well, where did they get the food to feed the Dothraki in the first place, to feed their horses in the first place? Because, yeah, they can graze, but a war animal is not going to be able to function solely off of grass. It's going to need some kind of external food. It's going to need something with more nutrients, like grain. Where are they going to get the grain? Oh, well, they can just spoil from the peasants. Oh, hey, Tyrion's whole we don't want to look like an invading army plan is fucked because you're stealing the peasants' grain in the Stormlands. Meaning the Stormlands are no longer on your side. Then once you get into the Reach, same fucking problem. This whole battle makes no fucking sense because fundamentally, even if the distances worked out, Dany would need to despoil two of the kingdoms that she is trying to get on her side. What is the gain? She avenges Olenna and she breaks a small Lannister force. Well, whoop-de fucking do now the Stormlands and the Reach, two kingdoms that are relatively unscathed. Are they unscathed? No, sorry, no. Stannis got a bunch of people killed. Okay, the Reach is relatively unscathed. This relatively unscathed place, and this fairly scathed but still able to scrape together some troops place, now have a reason to fucking hate you. Good fucking job, Dany. Good fucking job. Good for you. Good for you. You managed to break a small force of Lannisters transporting golden grain, but you have turned two of the kingdoms against you. And now your Dothraki are in the middle of Westeros with not much to eat. They got their blood up. Oh, oh, what? Ooh, look at all those defenseless Reach women. Look at all those defenseless Stormlands women. You can't stop all of them, Dany. You can't freaking stop all of them. So yeah, no, this battle actually paints Dany as a villain when you think about it. Dany is a horrendous person because of this battle existing. And if you want to fight me on that, if you want to argue with me, if you want to articulate an argument that proves me wrong, hop into the comment section down below, join the conversation. Let's have a good fun chat about why Fantasy Dragon World is needs to be taken seriously. And that is not a sarcastic remark. Legitimately, I put way too much damn thought in these. So if you want to call me a stupid nerd, go right ahead because I am one. Anyway, thank you very much if you got to this part of the video. Have a good day. See you next time. Peace.